Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we figure out what companies are really up to. Today we're diving into Perdoceo Education's latest proxy statement. And trust me, with all the executive pay details we're about to uncover, it's going to be an education for all of us. This isn't just some boring legal document, it's a peek behind the curtain, telling us about Perdoceo's board, how they get paid, and what big decisions are on the horizon. We're looking at who's running the show and if they're actually steering the ship in the right direction. Let's get started. First things first, this is a Schedule 14A filing, also known as a proxy statement. This document is sent to stockholders before an annual meeting, containing information on matters to be voted on, like electing directors and executive compensation. Mark your calendars, the annual meeting is on May 22, 2025. If you're planning to attend in person in Schaumburg, Illinois, you'll need to RSVP. One of the main purposes of the meeting is to elect 9 directors. Stockholders get to vote on who they want representing their interests on the board. If you own Perdoceo stock on March 28, 25, you're eligible to vote. Each share gets 1 vote for each director position. The company had about 65.5 million shares outstanding on that date. The board of directors is recommending that stockholders vote for their nominees. If you just sign the proxy card without indicating your preference, your shares will be voted according to the board's recommendations. The board met 6 times in 2024. It's important that directors attend meetings, so each director attended at least 75% of the board and committee meetings that they were a part of. The board also has committees to oversee different aspects of the company, such as the Audit Committee, Compensation Committee, Compliance and Risk Committee, and Nominating and Governance Committee. Each committee is made up entirely of independent directors. Perdoceo has a management-led risk committee that reviews potential risks for the entire company. The risk committee reports to the compliance and risk committee of the board at least once per year. The chief internal auditor reports directly to the audit committee. The company also focuses a lot of resources on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity gets special attention. The Compliance and Risk Committee oversees the company's information security, and the full board gets regular updates from the Chief Information Officer at every quarterly meeting. They even engage third-party experts to perform cyber assessments, and they maintain cybersecurity risk insurance. The company has a code of ethics for executives and senior financial officers, and a code of business conduct and ethics for all employees, officers, and directors. Employees are required to complete annual ethics training. The company also has an anonymous hotline for reporting suspected violations. Now let's talk about how the directors are compensated. Each independent director receives an annual retainer of $80,000, but the chairman of the board gets $180,000 for the compensation, compliance and risk, and nominating and governance committees, and $25,000 for the audit committee. In addition, directors receive an annual grant of restricted stock units. In 2024, that was 6,026 restricted stock units, which vest in 2026. Restricted stock units, which vest in 2026. Restricted stock units, which vest in 2026 restricted stock units, which vest in nominating and governance committees, and $25,000 for the audit committee. In addition, directors receive an annual grant of restricted stock units. In 2024, that was 6,026 restricted stock units, which vest in 2026 restricted stock units, which vest in 2025. Looking at the director compensation table, we can see exactly what the independent directors earned in 2024. For example, Kenda Gonzalez, who is the chairperson of the audit committee, earned $105,000 in fees and $143,262 owned to the company. Also has stock ownership guidelines for directors, and they're expected to own stock worth 3 times their base cash annual retainer. They also have to hold on to 75% of the net shares they receive from equity awards until they meet their ownership target. Now, let's move on to the executive team. This section details the compensation for the top executives. For 2024, the named executive officers are Todd Nelson, Ashish Ghia, Elise Baskell, Greg Jansen, and John Klein. The compensation discussion and analysis section dives into how the compensation committee makes decisions about executive pay. The company's compensation philosophy aims to reward executives for financial performance, align them with stockholders' interests, and encourage long-term commitment. In 2024, there was a base salary increase of 3.5% for Ashish Ghia, and later in the year, Elise Baskell and John Klein got raises to match company-wide increases. A big part of executive pay is tied to adjusted operating income, or AOI. The 2024 annual incentive plan paid out at the maximum because the company beat its AOI targets. Here are the actual results for the AIP. The target, adjusted operating income, was $166 million, but the actual was 19.4 times $6 million, which led to a 200% payout. This table shows how the company's financial performance and the achievement of individual objectives resulted in large payouts for the executive team, with perfect ratings all around. In March 2024, the named executive officers received long-term incentive awards, split between time-based restricted stock units and performance-based restricted stock units. This table shows the value of the long-term incentives granted. For example, Todd Nelson received $2.4 million in LTI, split evenly between restricted stock units and performance-based restricted stock units. Speaking of performance-based units, there was also the 2022 performance-based reward, which also vested for the executive team, due to great numbers with 2023 LTI EBITDA being much higher than targeted 2070 million at over 360 million, and with 2023 results being 19.7 million higher than the targeted 65 million. The whole team did really well. Another thing to note, in 2024, there was an acquisition of University of St. Augustine for health sciences, which resulted in a bonus for Nelson receiving $1.5 million and Jansen getting $600,000. Looking ahead, the changes for 2025 include Nelson getting a salary bump to $850,000. Gear got an LTIP target increase to 180 target increase to 180%, and finally Jansen getting a salary bump to $412,000. Now let's take a look at the 2024 summary compensation table. Top Todd Nelson, the CEO, had a total compensation of $6.7 million, which included a base salary of $800,000, a bonus of $5 million, stock awards of $213 million, stock awards of $203 million, stock awards of $230 shade. The CFO had a total compensation of $3.4 million. This information is very standard and not very telling without further information on company goals. Before we move on, there's a quick reminder of company policies. Perdoceo has an insider trading policy that prohibits employees from trading on material, non-public information. The company also prohibits hedging or pledging company stock. At the last annual meeting in 2024, the say on pay proposal was approved by 97% of shares. This shows strong support for the company's executive compensation policies. Finally, a look at the fees paid to their auditor, Grant Thornton. Audit fees were about $1.4 million in 2024, and audit-related fees were $259,000. So what's the real story here? Perdoceo's executive compensation is heavily tied to company performance, particularly adjusted operating income, which is what every public company should strive for. Beating targets led to big payouts for the executives, and while the acquisition bonuses look pretty high, they were a one-time thing that the board probably saw as crucial to the future of the company. It's also worth noting the company is investing a lot in cybersecurity to mitigate risks. Overall, Perdoceo is going in a great direction. This proxy statement shows the company values tying executive compensation to the company's success. If you found this helpful, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for more.